Today we're comparing two of Martin's great guitars, the 0028 versus the 0042, and we're asking the question, does the higher price of the 42 just give you more aesthetics, or is it more guitar? Stick around. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name's Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas, and you can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you are new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe, turn on notifications, and like our videos. And if you want to support us, check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, wherever you get your podcast, and buy a t-shirt or two from our swag store on Spring. You can find the description in the link below. Today, we are taking a look at two triple O's that are famous in Martin's lineup. This one is maybe arguably more famous. The 0028 is part of the standard series. Technically, they both are. This has been around a long time. There's an Eric Clapton version of it. Pretty famous guitar that got the reimagining a few years ago, along with its stablemate, the higher end of the standard series, the 0042. And the question is, how did they compare? They compare quite differently price-wise. How does the rest of them compare? What does an extra $3,000 buy you within the same series at Martin Guitars?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because when you look at dreadnoughts, you've got 18, 28, 35, 41, 42, 45. Mm-hmm. With triple O's, you got 18, 28, and 41, 42. And there's a huge jump, and I think in the dreadnoughts, you get little things stepping you all the way up there, but there's no 0045, there's no 0042, there's no,
41.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying.
No 35. So I think it's interesting to kind of look into these and really just hear the sound difference, because this should sound just like that on paper.
Does it?
It doesn't, I don't think, but you got quite a bit of pearl in this one that obviously contributes toward the price.
It's the gold tuners, the gold tuner set of
the gold tuners. Yeah, you're going crazy with these. And we've done a video a long time ago that was a cheap versus expensive.
Sorry, my Brontosaurus over here on the stool.
Yeah, you got dinosaurs in here, raptor style. So we did the 0042 up against one of the X series as our one of our first cheap versus expensive, and we've been getting more into the expensive versus expensiver. But the thing is, everybody's looking for a 0028.
You're an English major, right?
Yeah,
I can tell.
For sure. UT Austin, baby. You would think I went to A&M.
Ah.
Right? But yeah, I mean, does the pearl get you a better sounding guitar? It, to some, may give you a better looking guitar, or is there something else going on here?
There might be some science to it, but let's talk about what's surface level first. Okay?
Yeah.
So they are arguably pretty much the same guitar build-wise, right? So they're both 00 body, 00/OM bodies, 00 being the shorter scale length that they both have. We've got East Indian Rosewood back and sides. We've got a Sitka spruce top. Okay, they're a little bit different on the wood. That's going to be higher grade on the top and on the back and sides. The bracing pattern is the same. And so you'd go, okay, well, they should sound the same. The bridges are the same design of bridge. They're ebony. Same materials for the nut and the saddle. Same material for the fingerboard. I mentioned at the beginning that the scale length is going to be the same. The nut width is going to be the same. It's actually probably easier to talk about what is different between these guitars.
Yeah.
So obviously the abalone that's on the rosette and around the fretboard extension and the purfling around the top is different. The pickguard material is slightly different. I don't think that makes much of a difference. The neck, of course, is bound on the 0042, whereas it is not bound in the contrasting ivoroid binding on the 28. This has some very simple slotted diamond snowflake inlay. I think it's just slotted diamond.
I think it's diamonds and squares.
Diamonds and squares.
Diamonds and squares. This will have that snowflake.
Yeah.
1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 12, 15, 17. And it's definitely a little more fancy pants.
And then, of course, when we come to the top, the headstock on here is satin finished with the old style Martin script logo, and you've got a bound, glossy, fancy headstock over there.
Yeah, you got the CFM block inlay, which I like. Also, gloss neck on here.
Gloss neck.
Which you don't like.
Which is the only thing I really don't like on the guitar. And of course, you've got the gold open gear tuners versus the chrome open gear tuners, which is actually another thing that I don't like. I actually
don't like the
prefer.
gold? Yeah.
You know, it's weird. I used to like the gold. It was like the fancy thing, and
Yeah.
now I just prefer a chrome tuner.
I think for me, it varies guitar to guitar. I get it on this one. You know, it's
Yeah.
almost like, you know,
I'll
you're
take
going,
it. Like,
I'll take it.
I'm not gonna kick a gold tunered guitar out of bed, but
Yeah.
you know what I do like is I do like antique gold kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Over the years, it's just like it can be chrome, it can be satin and nickel or something. Like I don't know. I've just changed.
You know, you can
aesthetics.
do change them out.
You can change them, absolutely. But yeah, the big thing, and I like the aesthetic look of the gloss neck. I don't like the feel of the gloss neck.
Yeah.
I say that there's guitars that I have that are gloss neck that when I'm playing them, I don't ever pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe it's more a thing in my head. So that's the breakdown between what's the same. There's a lot that's the same.
Yeah.
Cases are different.
Cases are different. That one will have a case, and this one will have a case. This one is
Just in
kind of
case.
yeah. This one has a little bit more
It's a higher end,
higher
nicer
end.
case.
It's got that kind of Cabernet inside, which I like. But luckily, neither of these are coming to you without a case or with a gig bag.
Yeah.
So you're already good there. I mean, $3,000.
You should get a case.
You should be getting some. So this one is $33.99 right now. Price changes happen every week in the musical instruments industry, so who knows? $3,399. This is exactly $3,000 more than that at $63.99.
I remember when these were more like $5, which was already expensive.
I was looking at something the other day that was like, what, you know, $50 would get you from Martin Guitars in the turn of the century.
Yeah.
You know, at the turn of the 21st century, it got you some polish and a cloth. So,
of course, $50 at the turn of the previous century was a lot more money. I remember. Okay, I'm just gonna date myself since we're giving context here. I remember going to the movies, and a matinee showing was
I
$3.
saw Casablanca in the movie theater.
No, I did see, to date myself though, in high school, I did watch The Matrix in the theater for all you youngins, and I remember paying $3 to go to a matinee showing.
Wow.
And the other day, my kids and I were like, how much is it to go? And I felt like an old person. I was like, how much is it to go to the movies now, boys? Let's look up $14 a ticket. Good Lord. That's a lot of money.
They get you with the snacks.
How
I'll
about
tell
I
you
just
that.
give you a nickel and you let me watch the previews?
All right. Okay. Quick podcast sidetrack real
Yes.
quick. If you had $100 bill and you could go back in time to any point in the 20th century to go buy a guitar, what would it be? Or really any time in history.
Oh, it'd be a pre-war Martin.
What model?
So that I can then bring it back and
Yeah,
sell it
sell
for
it.
insane amounts of money.
Yeah.
It'd be like a D45 or 0045, anything that's in that Martin Museum.
Yeah,
You
they'll
know,
take
that I
one of
could
those.
get with like a $100 bill.
Yeah.
You know, you could buy 2 J45s
Dang. Yeah.
and have money left over.
Left over to go to the pictures.
Go to the picture show. So anyway, so obviously price of things has changed over the years. There's
Yeah.
been inflation. But these guitars, regardless, it's twice as much.
Yeah.
So you can buy 2 of these
Yeah.
for one of those, which is kind of incredible to think about in that context. So what's it really giving you? Does it sound different, given that we've already established they shouldn't really sound different? So before we talk about it anymore, let's hear you play through them, and then we'll discuss it on the other side. So make sure you have on good speakers, good listening ears and headphones, and take a listen. Okay, so you've heard Cooper play it. While you've been listening, we did the little experiment where I just played an E, first position E on there, and a first position E on here. And this guitar is louder and more resonant and has more high end. And it shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, from most people's general understanding, it shouldn't. Now, every guitar sounds a little bit different. Even your most consistent manufacturer will have variations from one guitar to the other guitar because they're dead trees, in case you didn't know that. And the wood is going to vary. So that's going to be some of the variants here. But the designs are basically the same. So let's kind of get to the heart of what's going on here. So that's the first one, just variation from one guitar to the other, which ties into a video we did previously about, like, you know, if you have to buy your guitar online, fine. But if you can be in the store and you can compare things, sometimes you'll realize, oh, this guitar's got the magic and this guitar doesn't, what have you.
Yeah.
So that's part of what's going on here. But there's some other stuff too. And we were talking about this off camera.
Yeah.
Years ago when I went to and did they talk about this when you were at the Martin factory? Were they experimenting on any of this stuff? Because it was an anecdotal thing when I was there.
They might have been. I mean.
So when I was there, when Patrick and I went, I think it was in 2014, one of the areas of the tour that I've talked about before was, it was literally in the middle of the factory, and it was a shipping container. It was like just dropped in the middle of the factory. And in the shipping container, it was very weird. It was very like Skunk Works, right? There's like no photography in here, you know? Yeah. So walk in and there's like this one guy in a dark room. And he's got a bunch of guitars and they're hanging up on the wall and all sorts of different builds. And not just like big brands, but like weird brands that, you know, it's a one-off, this luthier builds for a year, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he had an overhead projector, which I haven't seen since like elementary school, you know. And the overhead projector was projecting onto a guitar top, and it was a Martin guitar hanging, you know, with nothing but like wire barely holding it up. So it was as free floating as possible. And they were projecting a grid onto the top of the guitar and coming and tapping areas, and there were wires. It was very like steampunk-esque look because there were wires coming off of this guitar going into a computer, and they were measuring what was going on. And you can imagine why they were like, don't photograph this, you know, but it was an effort to understand stuff.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, Taylor did this where they like got spectrometry on how a top moved, you know, like what's going on when we're playing a guitar? How are the physics involved? One of the takeaways from that they shared with me, probably not knowing that I would blather about it on YouTube for eternity, is that if you could utilize like internal kind of binding, you know, for the inside of where the guitar meets the top meets the side, like kerfling that was made of a material, what would be the best material? Most kerfling is wood. That's why it's called kerfling. It's kerfed wood. Sometimes you can get really fancy and it's like solid wood lining on the inside of a guitar. But one of the things they said could be beneficial is something that was ceramic. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. Now, no one's going to go make a ceramic. That would be very, very difficult to do if you think about like some ceramic internal guitar lining. But the thought process goes, that's kind of what's going on when you have pearl inlaid around the top.
Yeah.
So what I've said before in previous videos talking about this is there's two schools of thoughts here. Taylor years ago did a thing with their tops where they created a relief route, which was right on the edge of the top, just outside of the lining of the guitar. There's a very shallow channel that's machined to the top, and it's very similar to what's done in violin and like cello manufacturing, where they create this relief route, and that creates this area of flex. You're basically pinpointing from here, this is where the top gets very flexible, you know. And so that's part of what's going on. Anytime you're putting this purfling, you're coming in from the top part and you're basically thinning a portion that is near the side, and you're saying everything from this perimeter down is going to be flexible. Both of these guitars have that because this has
the abalone.
Well, this has the abalone, and that
this
guitar
got the herringbone.
has the herringbone. I forgot which guitar I was holding for a second. So that has herringbone. This has abalone. But this material is like a ceramic, and that's not.
Yeah.
Is that what's doing it? I don't know, but it's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Is that worth $3,000? I don't know.
Who's to say? I do think that it would be interesting because obviously this video is more like a personal experiment for us. You know that we like both of these guitars and vouch for both of them as great options, but does the sound come across in however you're listening to it, through headphones, on your phone, speakers? Because I do think if anybody was in the store or even just had both of these guitars, I think you can hear an honest difference between
I mean,
the sound.
just the one strum of one chord was a dramatic difference for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, if you were buying, so here's the thing too, okay, just to digress a bit. One, would you pick one of these guitars because you were buying from sound, or would you just grab this guitar because you were buying from aesthetics? Or were you just buying that guitar because you were buying for aesthetics? Like, both of these are dramatically different aesthetic examples. Some people are going to gravitate to that more. Some people are going to gravitate to this more. I've known people that have bought this as like, I'm buying my Martin. I'm going all out. I want something that's really, really nice. That is, and that can be argued for either one. But I hear that a lot when people are getting a 0042.
Yeah.
And then if you were buying for sound, you would probably compare both of them. And I would say, eyes closed, most people would pick this guitar.
There's just a certain kind of ringing clarity of that guitar that's really noticeable.
Yeah.
And who's to say that does not have something to do with maybe the setups are slightly different on here, and if you got a setup on this one, it could get a little closer, or maybe that those strings are a week younger than these ones.
I don't think that's it. I really don't.
It's something about the resonance and like the actual sound that's getting pushed out.
Because the neck's glossed.
Gloss. Yeah.
No, it's interesting because we've experimented with changing strings. Strings can make a big difference. Pick material can make a big difference. I strummed both of these with the meatiness of my thumb and could hear just like more vibrancy out of this guitar. That guitar is no slouch. It's 0028. It's fantastic. But wow, the difference is in the comparison.
Yeah.
Of like just how much more volume and resonance and high-end like chiminess came out of this guitar.
Yeah.
Now, the other part to it was, and you asked me this, could it be the wood? And it could. So again, woods vary even within the same model. In this case, we aren't talking about the same model. And while they are both Sitka spruce tops, and that's a very nice top, this is a higher grade top according to how Martin would have picked and graded the tops. The back and sides, that's wonderful rosewood. This is nicer rosewood. Again, based upon how Martin and many other manufacturers would have graded it. This wood comes in, it goes into piles based upon what it is deemed good quality for. A spruce top that's going to go on an X series will never approach a spruce top that's going on a 0028. And then this guitar this is a really nice top.
Do you notice that the spruce on that has slightly straighter but wider?
It's wider grain.
Yeah.
Yeah, they both have really nice silking, those medullary lines that we've talked about. This cross silking is really nice, and yeah, the grain is very uniform, and it's wider, and it's very straight on this top. And so that's probably a big portion of it. So you've got the aesthetics, but you're also paying for the higher quality wood.
And if you happen to be in the market for a 0042, that is a very nice one.
This is a very nice one.
And they're all nice, but they are few and far between when we get them, just because they take so long to get here, and then you finally see one. Same thing with the D42 that we got in last week that's already sold. It's just like, oh my God.
Well, so you can watch this on YouTube if you search for like behind the scenes at the Martin factory, or if you ever get a chance to go on a tour like we both have. Sometimes you're lucky enough, you'll see someone in the line building like a 42 or a 45 and hand inlaying these chunks of abalone.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other manufacturers that have moved to like Abalam and other like laminated abalone, which is fine. It's a way of like kind of getting more yield and whatnot. But I remember being taken aback watching it in a very old school manner, a guitar sitting on a bench and a guy very systematically sorting through all of these pieces of abalone and hand inlaying like sections at a time and sorting for color and which piece is going to go near here and the bends and all of that stuff. It's different. than
That's cool.
a lot of other abalone. So, abalone.
Abalone. So yeah, there we go. It all depends on what you heard. So you have to let us know your thoughts. And if you're in the area, it's worth doing a side-by-side test, especially if you're looking at something that specs say should be very similar, except for some aesthetics. Because you might prefer this sound. You know, it's all up to you, but pretty much every manufacturer that we work with has an example like that, you know?
Well, the question always comes back to, is it worth it? Is this worth two of those guitars? You know? And I think the answer to that is there are always going to be diminishing returns. And that's true of everything. In cars, for instance, like the fastest supercars that are out there, that last little bit of speed is the hardest to get. And chasing it becomes incrementally more expensive. And I think that's true of everything. When you're trying to chase something, the closer you get, the harder it becomes and the more expensive it gets, is how it goes. So is this twice as much guitar? That's for someone to decide. I think, again, there's a diminishing returns, but it is a fantastic guitar. And it really comes down to what you were saying. Do you hear the difference? And would you be satisfied with it? And for everyone who says, no, I take the 0028, that's the right answer. And for everyone who says, I hear the difference, I love the look, and I would spend the extra money for the 0042, that's also the right answer.
Yeah.
As long as you're buying both from us, that's the right answer. So if you're new to our channel, you know what to do. But before you do that, actually, I failed to mention, if they want to buy it from us, they should go to our website.
You got to go to alamomusic.com.
Cooper's got the answer for you. And you can chat with someone, or you can give us a call. Like I said, if you are new here, it's the best guitar content on YouTube. So subscribe, turn on notifications, like, and tell your friends. And we'll see you next time.